Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching SEV Games. I am Seven. How you doing, Charles?
Very well.
That was a good intro.
I think so. I probably yelled too loud into the mic.
Listen, Super Mario Brothers. Was that the beginning of it all, or no?
Okay, let me give you a little time lapse of my video game plethora. Anyway, no, 1985 is when Super Mario came out, and it just really changed the market because it was after the crash of Atari in 1983.
Now, I heard about that. What is the crash of Atari? Sounds historical.
The E.T. game.
You know,
You can't blame it all on the E.T. game. I think it was quite a few factors. The game, that game was just bloody awful. I think if you actually look it up online, they buried a bunch of them in the desert. And you know what? They did a special where they actually went and found where they buried those things when they dug them up. So that is true, everybody. You can actually find that online. But it was oversaturation. There was a ton of different consoles out.
Right.
You know, you had ColecoVision and Television, Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Atari 5800, and just a bunch of different machines. And I believe that the market got oversaturated and people actually start moving more toward the home computers.
Well, at first they didn't really think this was going to even pop off.
Oh, no, they call it a fad.
So let's start from the beginning. What is this box?
That is the original home system. And then, again, most people thought that the Atari 2600 was the original home system. It wasn't. It's this system. It is the Magnavox Odyssey. And that was in 1972.
Oh, wow.
Wow, 1972.
Okay. And there's a lot of little bits, and pieces.
A lot of little bits and pieces of that.
What is that? Those are the games? Those are the cartridges?
Yeah, little like cards. It's crazy, right?
And what is that little red battery looking thing?
I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah.
But it looks cool. So,
and Pong was actually, and this is another thing. People think Pong was first. No. The original Odyssey in 1972 came out, it preceded the Atari Pong by 3 years and came out in 1975. Ha-ha! History! History!
Now, you said you owned this one, right?
Uh-oh, yes! That was my introduction into gaming, the Odyssey 2. That's what kicked it all off for me.
Wow.
I spent, God help me, I spent many hours playing that game, and that's where it all started for me.
Did you have that TV too? Or?
No, I didn't. Actually, no. You know what I played it on, believe it or not? And they said, you can't do that. I played it on a big screen TV, believe it or not.
Oh,
The big screen used to have to fold out and used to shoot, the image into the mirror and fire it back up on the screen. That's actually
wow.
Yeah, that's what I played. And then we moved it to a smaller TV, but for Christmas, we hooked it up to a big screen TV. Wow. Like playing in a movie theater.
The excellent game.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Odyssey. And it was, because we used to spend a lot of time in the arcades. My uncle used to take us to arcades, and I lived in those things, man. Yeah.
So you could find this on eBay and stuff?
You can find them on eBay. I saw some as low as $13, and I saw some as high as $1,000, over $1,000, but you would get like all the games with it. I still have mine back in Pittsburgh, and I believe it still works. I haven't had it hooked up in years, but
now, you said that there was drama. Let me show this.
That's the controller.
Yeah,
I remember that. Look how simple those controllers were. That's it. A joystick and a fire button. That's all you had.
But isn't that all you really need?
That's all you needed. There we go.
Now, what is this? This had controversy, right?
There's major controversy back in the day. That's KC Munchkins for the Odyssey 2, and they had, a conflict with Pac-Man. It was basically a Pac-Man ripoff.
Right.
Yeah, it was a Pac-Man ripoff. Because Pac-Man, I believe, came out in 1980, and then KC Munchkins came out in 1982. No, 1981, I'm sorry. Pac-Man in 1980, and then KC Munchkins in 1981, and they actually had to go to court over that. So I don't know how the case ended, if they had to pay money or anything, but yeah. So it's just but it was actually better.
It looks nothing like Pac-Man.
No, really. But The actual arcade Pac-Man was better, but for the home system,
Right.
that was better. The Odyssey 2 Casey Munchkins was better than the, help me out here, the Atari 2600 Pac-Man, which was just total garbage as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I mean, it wasn't made well. It wasn't.
Now, this is an Arrow. So, I mean, I see all these games are very simple.
Pickaxe Pete, baby. I had that. That's Pickaxe Pete. Pickaxe Pete. I love that game. Quest for the Rings. I remember that. That was sort of like Lord of the Rings. And at that time, that was advanced because what would happen is you would get the game and it actually had an overlay that you would put over the keyboard. And it had like the map of the game, if I'm not mistaken, and you could be like a warrior, a sorceress, or, turn invisible and different things. So that was actually it was difficult back then. It was actually a groundbreaking game. I mean, when you go back and look at it today, it's very basic, but back then, that Quest for the Rings was like high-end stuff.
Now, this is where things got a little more complicated.
Right. Yeah.
And this looks very much like Atari 2600.
Yeah.
Even like the little switches.
That one, that's not the 2600 though.
No, it's not. But look, the knobs, the switches are very much like it. Look, this is 2600.
That's the 2600.
You see how the knobs are like how you switch on and off? It's
crazy. Now, the Atari 2600 was cool about that.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin had the Atari 2600 and I had the Odyssey.
Right.
So he would come over and play games. And then when I would go over his house, I'd play his Atari. So, and to this day, we still game hard. So shout out to my cousin J-Bo. And we're still hardcore gamers to this day. And television, yes. Now, the television actually came along and added a nice spark to the market because their sports games, especially their football and their boxing. Football, boxing, and basketball were actually like top notch back in the day. Those are some really good games in television. But what happened is when these other consoles started coming out, it started to actually oversaturate the market. And that's when, everything started to sort of go downhill. Yeah. Pong, baby. So we actually found a working Pong in a garbage, bro. And we dug that thing out the garbage and we took it back to my buddy's house and it worked. And we actually played that too. Yeah.
It's sick.
So, hey, a little bit of garbage picking never hurt anybody, man.
So, oh man. All right, so let's fast forward. Now we know that Nintendo totally changed the game with Super Mario Brothers. What else they had? Their karate games, because there wasn't this little spot where people that had Commodore 64s, the
VIC-20s and Commodore 64s. I remember that, yeah.
And then the
consoles were dead at that point.
Right. And everyone started with computer games.
Yep.
And the fighting games, the sports games and computer games were there's this one Kung Fu game I had. I can't remember what it's called, but it was so awesome. It was so fun.
Was it Yair Kung Fu? I used to play a Kung Fu game called Yair Kung Fu.
It was Commodore? It was on the Commodore?
And I believe so. And they had Karate Champ was on a Commodore, I believe, too. There are quite a few of them Kung Fu games that I love them things, man.
Yeah, man. See, that's the cool thing about having older cousins. I got to ColecoVision, which no one talks about.
ColecoVision, my game for ColecoVision. Okay, my two favorite games. Remember Smurf? They had Smurf. I love Smurf.
I never got to play Smurf.
Dude, what? Okay, Smurf and Turbo. And why I like Turbo, it was actually one of the first games where it actually had a wheel. I got the wheel and I had a gas pedal with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I love that game. Yeah. ColecoVision was the stuff, man. My grandma used to play ColecoVision. I'm serious, and she was good at it too.
You can get all these games. They're super affordable.
Oh, definitely.
If you want to. And they're still great games.
Dude, a lot of the games that people are playing today are based off the retro games.
Right. Yeah. Adventure Island, Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong changed the game. Between Donkey Kong and
Super Mario, brother.
They were so pivotal in the success. But no one could deny the impact of Punch-Out. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Tyson's Punch-Out. Little Mac.
That was it.
I remember playing the original Punch-Out in the arcade. I remember playing the original Punch-Out in the arcade. Yeah. And there it is, Super Mario. And today, Super Mario is still probably Nintendo's biggest leading character and highest selling games.
Yeah, they did a really good job of continuing to build on that brand.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. Nintendo, they have their niche market where they're not trying to fight for the PlayStation market. They're not trying to fight for, the Xbox market. They have their niche crew. And if you're Nintendo, you stick with them. You know what I mean? And they have their crowd. So it's good.
It's amazing that now you can get a whole, remember we just showed all those cartridges?
Yeah.
If you look at this picture, you can actually get a Nintendo that could fit in your hand and have
all the games on
all those games
It's
in
insane.
it.
It's insane
ridiculous.
how technology has changed. Before you used to have all the cartridges. Now you can get all those games, like you said, it can fit in the palm of your hand on the NES. And they just released the new NES. I think Walmart actually sold out of them. And
I would like one.
Yeah,
I'm thinking I might do that. And then the Atari, they're the first ones to really do that. Where you can play all the old, well, not all, but
Atari
many.
did it, and then they did it with the Sega Genesis.
Oh,
They
I
did
didn't
it
know
with
they
the
did that with
Sega Genesis.
Sega. Wow.
This is one thing I definitely I want to do, just to give people. And I learned this off you. I paused for a second. There's a difference between being a gamer and there's a difference of being a person that plays the games. You understand?
Right.
It just goes back. I remember talking to you about Star Wars. I thought I knew a fair, good share about Star Wars till I sat down with you, and I'm like, I don't know. You understand? Seriously, because
Oh man, that's
no,
funny.
it's true. It's like, man, you're telling me some stuff I don't even know. And I remember seeing. I followed all the Star Wars films,
Right.
but sitting down with a true gamer that's in it for the culture of it is completely different than just playing with a recreational gamer. Now, the different systems that I've owned, okay, I'm going to go down the list. I've owned the Magnavox Odyssey 2. I had Intellivision. I had ColecoVision. I had, let me go down the list here. Intellivision, ColecoVision. I had, now going over toward the PCs, I had Atari 800, Atari 400, Atari 800. I had the NES. I had the Super NES. I had the Sega Genesis.
Wow.
I had the Sega Saturn. I had the Sega Dreamcast. I had the original Xbox 360. I actually had 6 360s. I went through 6 of them darn things. Xbox, I think you should hit us up here. Anyway, and I had the Xbox One. I had the Sony PlayStation. I had the Sony PlayStation 2. I didn't get the PS3 because I leaned more toward the Xbox. So what I'm saying is I've been around gaming. Either I've owned most of the popular systems or I've played them. Going back to the Neo Geo, you know what I mean? That was big in 1990.
Well, I have a question before we go on this segment. Did you have a Game Boy?
I did not. But I got something for you. And we're going to end on this note. Everybody talks about the Game Boy. Game Boy was awesome.
Right.
But there was something before the Game Boy. If you're a true gamer, now it wasn't as small, but I remember my buddy bringing it to school, and it was the Vectrex. So anybody that knows anything about gaming, look up Vectrex. That was one of the first portable gaming things that, we used to play with. My buddy used to bring it to school. We'd plug that bad boy in and we would play it. So look that up, Vectrex. But Game Boy definitely was huge too because it was one of the first really, really compact portable gaming systems that you could take with you. But going back before that, I would definitely look at the Vectrex gaming system. Yeah.
All right. Well, here's our segment of SEV games. And should we say SEV gaming or SEV games?
I would say gaming.
Gaming. Because
So we're not talking about basketball or kickball or soccer. We're talking about gaming. We're gamers.
This is
man.
well, chess could count, can it?
Chess could count. I'm not a great chess player though, but I know the basic rules.
All right, we'll be back with another segment. You're watching SCV Gaming.
Yeah.